Good morning. Welcome to our lay-led online summer services at First Unitarian Church. Hello, my name is Sue Ashwell, she, her, and I'm so glad to see all of you here this morning. I especially want to welcome any visitors or newcomers. If you are new to our congregation, please take a moment to fill out the newcomer form found at the chat, at the link in the chat window. Be sure to stay for the virtual coffee hour at the end of the service so that you can visit with a small group who will welcome you. Our minister, the Reverend Kim Mason, will be back in the pulpit starting August 30th. Just a few points of orientation. The order of service, including music notes and the yellow pages of church news, is available at the link in your chat window, as well as on the church website and e-news. Greg, thanks for popping that link into the chat. If you did not receive the e-news, please comment in the chat box and we will be in touch with you. We also want to remind you that the recordings of our services with closed captioning are posted every Sunday afternoon on the church YouTube channel. Members of the Towards Justice group will continue to hold a weekly socially distant vigil in support of Black Lives Matter. Join us at 10 a.m. on Saturdays at the intersection of Waterman Boulevard and Kings Highway until further notice. And I will say it's a great opportunity to see other members of the congregation in person. The Towards Justice group is also planning other activities that will move our congregation forward on issues of racial justice and education surrounding white supremacy. After virtual coffee hour today at 11:30, there will be a children's chapel with religious educator Ben Rosenzweig. Instructions are available in the RE e-news. We extend a special thank you to our virtual worship team this morning. Thanks to Pam Geppert, who is serving as our producer this morning. Greg Hutzel is our chat monitor, and Margaret Weck is our video monitor. Please let George Graham Howell know if you're willing to serve in one of these roles on a future Sunday. Summer worship is a community effort. Now, since one of the important aspects of worship is being present in community, we invite you to take a moment and turn on your webcams and wave to each other. Just switch to gallery view so you can see everyone at once. We're keeping everyone muted, but feel free to type your greetings in the Zoom chat box. It is so good to see all of you. Now please turn off your webcams again and feel free to return to speaker view. Welcome to this religious community where we affirm the dignity and freedom of all who enter. Here we seek to live together in relationship and respect so that we may embrace and celebrate our differences. Our religious values invite us to a shared journey of truth and meaning. Sincerity and connection guide our religious community and call us into deeper association with ourselves and our world. Welcome. We are glad you are part of our community this morning. Now, please enjoy our Prelude, Fugue in D major by William Selby, performed by our organist.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Dashner. She, her, hers. I am a member of the worship committee, and I have the privilege of being your worship leader this morning. Our opening words are "Look to this day," attributed to Kalidasha. Look to this day, for it is the life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Now join us in singing, O life that maketh all things new.
That maketh all things new, the blooming earth, our thoughts within, our pilgrim feet wet with thy dew, in gladness hither turn again. From hand to hand the greeting flows, from eye to eye the signals run, from heart to heart the bright hope glows, the seekers of the light are one. One in the freedom of the truth, one in the joy of paths untrod, one in the soul's perennial youth, one in the larger thought of God. The freer step, the fuller breath, the wide horizon's grander view, the sense of life that knows no death, the life that maketh all things new.
Our chalice lighting today comes from Dag Hammarskjöld, the second Secretary General of the United Nations. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back.
Your voice, your presence, your love can inspire, can heal, and can transform. One of the ways we do that as a faith community is through the sharing of joys and sorrows, We remember today many in our community who are mourning loss and sorrow. It is with sadness that we have learned that longtime member Judy Bamberg passed away on July 12, 2020. Judy, a third-generation Unitarian, was very active in the church until she moved to Bainbridge Island, Washington in 2010 after the death of her husband, Harold. We send our sympathy to her surviving daughter, Jill, and other family members. Our hearts also go out to member Judy Till, who is mourning the loss of her dear sister, Shirley Fulbright Kirby, whose health has been declining since March. Shirley grew up in this church along with Judy. Let us also send our healing energy and prayers to member Dolores Blem, whose health has taken a negative turn. Dolores has been admitted to Missouri Baptist Medical Center for tests and evaluation. Cards are welcome either to her hospital room or her home. We also this morning remember our longtime member Doris Pree, who is also experiencing health challenges. We wish Dolores and Doris rapid healing and swift return to our community. I now invite you to type any sorrows that you are experiencing into the group chat box, and we will silently take a moment to read and contemplate these messages.
We hold these sorrows with tenderness and compassion. May they be lighter because they are shared. As a community, we also share joys with one another. We are delighted to announce the birth of twins, Jocelyn and Margot, to church member Erica Irwin. Baby Jocelyn has tolerated surgery well and is still in critical but stable condition. We wish Charles Kindleberger a very happy 80th birthday on Monday. I now invite you to type in any joys you wish to share in the group chat box, and we will silently contemplate these. We hold these joys with gladness and celebration. May they be magnified because they are shared. With many joys and sorrows remaining in our hearts and minds, please join me in our sung prayer, Spirit of Life. Our prayer and meditation this morning comes from Reinhold Neubauer. We must be saved. Nothing that is worth doing can be achieved in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing which is true or beautiful or good
makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as it is from our standpoint. Therefore, we must be saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness.
Our first reading this morning is Pandemic by Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Lynn Unger. Pandemic. What if you thought of it as the Jews consider the Sabbath, the most sacred of times? Cease from travel. Cease from buying and selling. Give up, just for now, on trying to make the world different than it is. Sing, pray, touch only those to whom you commit your life. Center down. And when your body has become still, reach out with your heart. Know that we are connected in ways that are terrifying and beautiful. You could hardly deny it now. Know that our lives are in one another's hands. Surely that has become clear. Reach out your heart. Reach out your words. Reach out all the tendrils of compassion that move invisibly where we cannot touch. Promise this world your love, for better or worse, in sickness and in health, as long as we all shall live. It is the mission of the First Unitarian Church of St. Louis to provide a hospitable sanctuary in this time and place for people to seek sources of spiritual strength and to encourage people in the church and in the world to work for love, decency, tolerance, and justice. In this time of pandemic, the church continues in that mission. The building is closed, but the church is open. And so it is that we need you. Your monthly pledge payment, your weekly goodwill contribution are vital to the church right now. We are not passing a physical plate, but there are many ways to donate, including by mail, online, or with our Text to Give program. These are uncertain times. Please give as you can.
Two steps forward and one step back. It seems so simple. Things aren't that black and white. That's just not the dance we really do. Beneath an exponential asterisk or under a square root. And it's hard keeping time with everything speeding up and slowing down and turning on a dime. And there will always be trials up ahead, but when you wanna dance, you've gotta get out of your head. You can do the tango, you can do the Brooklyn shake, and I can teach you how to doogie if you can count from 1 to 8. It's pretty simple. All you gotta do is get on your good foot and come in on the tool. And it's hard keeping time with everything speeding up, slowing down and turning on at night. And there will always be trials up ahead, but if you wanna dance, you gotta get out of your head. Well, I sure wish I could walk that straight and narrow line. Feel like I'm going round in circles way more than half the time. Guess that's just the nature of our situation. So let's ring around the rosy and hokey pokey too. And it's hard keeping time with everything speeding up, slowing down and turning on at dime. And there will always be trials up ahead, but if you wanna dance, you've gotta get out of your head. Yeah, if you wanna dance, you gotta get up out of your head.
Good morning. Back in April, when I thought I had this pandemic handled, I wrote a meditation, which I shared with some of you. And it included this epiphany. Worry and sadness can yield to love and joy, even moments of clarity. My beloved water aerobics class is gone, but my exercise with the dogs has allowed me to bond with Tasha, our recent adoptee. I can see her progress, even though it is nonlinear. She is still very timid, but I am no longer tempted to call her feral. My heart soars when she forgets to be afraid and shows some true Samoan personality, like when she sings or speaks. Think Chewbacca. Progress is nonlinear. It's hardly an original thought. Barack Obama said in a speech, progress does not move in a straight line. I have understood this before and then misunderstanding it again and again. You know what else doesn't move in a straight line? A dog that is terrified of walks. We have trained 5 Samoans. Tasha is our 4th from St. Louis Samoan Rescue. Rescue dogs come with issues. Walks are therapeutic for them. Tasha is the first one I encountered that would not walk on a leash. In January, I struggled to take her to the corner and back. By March, we were going just a little further. I always had our 12-year-old Samoan, Isis, along with us. Isis has arthritis, and she has a lot of places to mark on a walk. She's not fast, but she was always in the lead, stopping with me to wait for Tasha to recover from whatever frightened her. Moving cars, parked cars with people in them, people in general. There were many evenings I just wasn't up to it. On March 13th, the United Way sent its 211 call center agents, including me, home to work remotely until it is safe to gather in the office. I am grateful that we were all well prepared to make that transition. I'm grateful to be working, and to be working to mitigate the current COVID crisis. All my community activities closed down. This coincided with 2 vacancies in our apartment buildings, requiring my husband to be working out of the home every day. I didn't see this solitude as a gift. It took me some time to see that it wasn't solitude. It was a time to bond with our new best friend. I needed the exercise, and Tasha needed, well, I didn't know, maybe movement therapy? Walks were a series of lockdowns and lunges. I took the dogs on the nearest no-outlet streets. At first, the lunges were always toward home, but soon they were also directed toward squirrels and birds. It's not something I want a dog to do on a walk, but at least Tasha liked something we were doing together. Gradually, we got good enough to go around the block. By this time, I was using a choke collar. We were told up front that Tasha was not leash trained, and I had purchased a fabric harness, which I gave Tasha's foster mom to try on her. We tried that a little bit, but I soon discovered that in full panic mode, Tasha could slip her head out of the harness. If she slipped her collar and got off leash, I feared I would never see her again. I had to step up as a pack leader. Tasha needed a lead system which was strong enough to protect her, even from herself, and gave her good direction. She also needed to know that I would be fair in appreciating her good work. I wish I had more time and money to search for the ideal walking collar. But the choke collar works. Tasha knows she can't escape it. She pulls less. Sometimes she heals. A lot of the time, she isn't really pulling. There are still encounters that she resists full force, like when I try to stop to buy my lunch. There's a shop, Parker's Table, around the block from me. Tasha refuses to go near the outdoor counter they have set up. The Parker staff entices her with dog biscuits and meat trimmings, but she will have none of it. Now, Isis loves it, but that's Isis. But little by little, she spends less time straining against her collar and more time standing without pulling the leash beyond its natural extension. Sometimes we call her Slinky because when she first dared to venture off the couch, she would follow us, but so quietly that we would be surprised to turn around and see her, and she would run back to the safety of the couch. She still follows us as quietly as a shadow, but now when we see her, she comes up to be petted. I have a sense of accomplishment, and I believe Tasha does too. It's a bit of a luxury to be working from home and spending my lunch hour training my dog. Well, having a pet is a luxury. Yet it is important work repairing broken souls. One of the crummy things we humans do is breed animals for quantity over quality. Tasha was surplus merchandise at a puppy mill. When she failed to sell during a cute puppy phase, she was discounted to someone who kept her and a litter mate in a kennel in a backyard all the time. Samoans were bred to be the multi-purpose workforce for the Samoan people. They were actively involved with their community, herding reindeer, pulling sleds, and sleeping with the children to keep them warm. They are fine living outdoors, as long as their humans live outdoors as well. To shut them away from their human community is soul-crushing. Tasha and I were both experiencing loneliness when we began walk therapy, but we were already beneficiaries of a massive community of support. There were many small animal rescue organizations run off of people's kitchen tables. Tasha was rescued from northern Midwest and placed in foster care in Baldwin by one such organization. She was 6 months in foster care, learning not to panic at ordinary household activity. Her case was then turned over to St. Louis Samoan Rescue in hopes of finding experienced Samoan people, and we were found. This work of nonlinear progress begins in isolation and loneliness, but it gives grace, and I have a growing faith that when we attempt to right a wrong, others will share our hope, fortify our faith, love us, and forgive us.
Our next reading is two sets of Bible readings. The first is Luke chapter 17, verses 20-21. When asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, Jesus replied, "The kingdom of God will not come with observable signs, nor will people say, 'Look, here it is,' or 'There it is,' for you see, the kingdom of God is in your midst." The second Bible reading is when Moses is leading his people to the promised land and God is speaking to him. This is Deuteronomy chapter 3, verses 27 and 28. "Go to the top of Pisgah and look to the west and north and south and east. See the land with your own eyes, for you will not cross this Jordan. But commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will cross over ahead of the people and enable them to inherit the land that you will see."
I've spoken about my modest work to repair a broken soul, begun in moderate isolation. My parents were on the forefront of a social movement to repair broken souls, the push for humane communities for the developmentally disabled. When I was born, my parents were beginning to notice developmental delays in my older brother. As he turned 2 and then 3 without speaking, except in his sleep, their concerns grew. Andy and I were happy, though. We learned language together. We shared activities more like twins than children separated by 22 months, until it was time for Andy to go to kindergarten. After a year in private kindergarten and 3 years in public, regular, and special education, the school district in Maryland where we were living informed my parents that they could not educate my brother. They did make what turned out to be a generous offer. "If you find a school that will take him, we'll pay the tuition." They had no recommendations. My parents found and rejected a residential treatment center that required them to relinquish custody. They finally discovered Linwood Children's Center, a school for children with autism in Ellicott City, Maryland. They enrolled Andy. Montgomery County School District paid, and I learned a new word, autism. By that time, Andy and I had 2 little brothers, Sam and Ralph. No speech delays with them. Sam adopted the charming habit of addressing my parents as "Dear Honey." It was a phrase he picked up from a neighbor who babysat him. It turned out that a lot of his speech was conversation he had overheard. But you can't fault a toddler for being unoriginal. There were other signs of developmental delay, but with no early intervention programs, wait and see if he grows out of it was the conventional wisdom and my parents' course of action. Kindergarten enrollment had changed, though. My mother got a detailed questionnaire about Sam's development. Does he follow simple instructions? No. Does he participate in conversations? No. Is he reliably toilet trained? No. My mother called the school and asked if she should continue with the enrollment process. No, was their answer. So Sam was evaluated for autism and enrolled at Linwood Children's Center. Again, Montgomery County School District paid the tuition. What a dark day that must have been for my parents. It sounds simple because at least they knew what to do. However, they had 2 sons with this little-known syndrome called autism, and the common theory of its cause was refrigerator mothers, mothers who failed to bond with their babies. My mother had her shortcomings, but coldness was not one of them. My 9-year-old mind was not prepared for the random injustice of adversity. I told my mother it wasn't fair. I'm sure she felt the same way, but she reassured me that Sam would be all right. The truth is, by most measures, Sam was never all right. Thanks to my parents' persistence, though, he had a full life in a community that embraced him. When he came of age, the vocational rehabilitation department evaluated him to be profoundly mentally retarded and untrainable. He was profoundly indifferent to their tests, but he had already demonstrated remarkable memory skills. He didn't participate in them, but he would recite entire conversations he heard in the voices of the speakers. However, in terms of vocational rehab, Sam was untrainable. Prospects for Sam's adult life were bleak. My parents toured Great Oaks, Maryland's home for the mentally ill. There was an exercise yard where adults with autism paced back and forth, and there were cells. My parents were not going to put Sam in a prison for the disabled. But keeping Sam at home was not an option. My mother, in her advocacy for Sam, said, "I don't want to be that woman who prays to live one day longer than her disabled child." My mother succeeded in organizing a group of parents facing the same dilemma for their adult children with autism, and together they founded a trailblazing organization, Community Services for Autistic Adults and Children, better known as CSAC. This organization that provided Sam with independent and supported housing and supported employment throughout his life. There's another reason, though, that Sam could not stay with my parents. No one talks about it. I wouldn't know if I were not a witness. Sam, who had grown to 6 feet tall, hit my mother on occasions when he became angry. It is a risk with people with severe communication disorders. My parents were ill-equipped to deal with it, and their attempts to do so were as concerning as the behavior itself. I'm not saying this to besmirch the memory of my brother or my parents. My point is that love, loyalty, and trying to do what is best for your disabled child will not protect you from pain and shame. Sam's moods were eventually managed with medication. He took Prozac throughout his adult life, before it was a miracle drug and after it was maligned. My mother was inherently mistrustful of psychiatric medication, but independent living programs are dependent on their use. Community living requires consistent, safe behavior, and medication made that possible for Sam. Sadly, Sam died of an undiagnosed wasting disease when he was 51, and my mother was 88. She blamed the medication that he took for so many years in spite of negative test results. My mother's mental state deteriorated with Sam's ill health, and she became convinced that CSAC had been reckless in seeking medication for Sam and had essentially poisoned him. I see my mother's efforts to establish a humane community for the disabled as heroic, similar to Moses bringing the Israelites to the promised land. Perhaps Moses was lucky never to enter the promised land. He never had to second guess all the decisions he had made to deliver his people. My mother lived another 4 years. She mourned Sam and regained some of her mental acuity. She stopped attributing Sam's death to over-medication. As far as I could tell, though, CSAC was dead to her. My intent was to tell you a more upbeat story about nonlinear progress at CSAC. The first work of CSAC was to rent apartments for several groups of compatible adults. Sam was not interested in leaving his childhood home, but he was coaxed into it and adjusting well. He was eager to visit home on holidays, but he bonded with his roommates and what was a lifelong connection. Things had been going well for several months when my parents called to say that Sam and his roommates were served with an eviction notice because of noise. They contested it in court, arguing discrimination, but the complex's attorney ably proved that they were in violation of their lease. CSAC decided they would be better served by buying houses for their independent supported living groups. Then CSAC met NIMBY, or Not in My Backyard. It seems neighbors did not want a group home next door, and realtors did not want to offend potential future clients. CSAC needed a lawyer versed in housing discrimination. The director approached the lawyer who had represented the apartment complex and asked him to work pro bono. She led with, "I could tell your heart wasn't in it." After some thought, he agreed. That man helped them buy all of the houses they needed to house clients over many years. This former adversary became instrumental in fulfilling CSAC's first mission of providing community living for adults with disabilities. Sometimes a lyric can cut to a truth that a person might be chasing for a whole sermon. Our Offertory and Postlude are original compositions by Dashner. He hopes you will have your own personal interpretation of these songs. By sharing mine, I do not mean to influence your experience, but I would like to dedicate, if you want to dance, to Tasha, because she does. I would like to dedicate You're Still Here to Sam, and to John and Ellen, and to CSAC, which is literally still here. The you in You're Still Here could be a person, but to me it is a supreme creator, not an all-powerful God, but a God who derives strength from being all vulnerable. Perhaps we find ourselves in the kingdom of heaven when we feel the presence of the God who says, "I don't have the answers to your questions. Please forgive me for that, and forgive yourself for not having them either. I will be with you, and we can listen and observe and learn together. I can't prevent you from dragging your dog out of the street by her neck, but I will be with the people who see past what's happening to your intent. I will be with her when she forgives and forgets and eagerly jumps up for the next walk. And I will be with you and help you begin again in love. I don't know the best therapy for your son. I can't prevent him erupting in violence when no one sees past his disability to his genius. I can't promise his continued good health, but I will stay with you every step of the way, and together we can begin again in love. I cannot keep your adversaries from prevailing against you, but if you think you might be able to turn an adversary into an ally, and you hope you are brave enough to ask, I will be with you because I know you are. Let us go forward together with love and courage. Now, please join us in our closing hymn, 168.
Till
Closing Words for Hard Times by Maureen, Kilron. No matter how weak or how frightened we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support the broken, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of justice and love. Be strong, be connected. Each day, act so you may be a little more whole.
They've been lying about you, saying you're something you're not when you've always just been exactly what you are. You've been making a universe out of 1,000 ideas, and it can be hard to tell the light bulbs from the stars. But so far, you have come through by the skin of your teeth since the very beginning of eternity, even though you never did quite fit it in. And every horizon hides some past event and some future you're scared of you can't circumvent, and you never have quite hit its end. But so far, you still here, and still now. It's still now. They've been lying about you, saying you're something you're never knew. Always just been exactly what you are. You've been making a universe out of 1,000 ideas, and it can be hard to tell the light bulbs from the stars. But so far, you still and still it's still